Hello everyone and welcome back to Complete Frontend. In this video, we are diving deep into variables. We are going to understand how exactly variables are stored, and then we are also going to get into variable naming conventions. So listen to this video very carefully. This is going to be very helpful for you to understand and visualize how actually variables work under the hood. Okay, so let's get into it right now. Let's imagine it right now. Whenever you store a value, what is a value? So a value is any number or character or anything that you might store for the sake of your application. Even before that, what is an application? An application is something that solves a certain problem for a business case, right? That is what an application is built for, correct? A product or an application solve certain problems for the users. What do I mean by that? For example, you have a banking application which is from HDFC, let's say. So this HDFC application is built so that you would be able to do your banking work easily in that application, correct? So that is an application. Similarly, you have WhatsApp. WhatsApp is nothing but where you can communicate from one person to another via the internet, right? So this is an application. Every application works on the uh, concept of values as well. Now, what are values then? Values are nothing but things that you store so that you can make decisions in an application. Say that you are registering to an application and it says, what is your age now? Right? So you say, for example, 28 or something like that, right? So it will check. So this is a value. It will probably ask for your name as well, right? Name, you will say something like Shrikant, right? And now you have the value and you have the another value, which is the name there. Now, what is this used for? We need to think like that. So, for example, you say that application is for people only above 18. Now, if that is the case, then I need to decide here that whether this applicant can be allowed into the application or not, right? So where does that, so this value will be used by the program to check if 28 is greater than 18. If say my age is 17 over here, now what's going to happen is it's going to say, okay, 17 is less than 18, not an adult, so not allowed into the program. So what is a value then? A value is the smallest part of a programming language or the smallest programming concept in a programming language. Okay. So a value is something that you store somewhere for certain decisions that you have to make. It might be something that is user facing or something that can result in a user facing decision. For example, if the age is greater than 18, allow that person to go in. If the age is less than 18, then show you are not an adult. Now, that comparison of the actual value is not shown to the user, but based on that comparison there will be a decision taken that whether this person should be allowed into the app or not, correct? So that is what a value is. I hope you understand the fundamental concept of value in a programming language. We'll get into something called as data types in the future lecture, but in this video you don't need to get into that. You just need to understand that there can be different kinds of values. Okay, so what are the different kinds of values that you can have? You probably can have a number, right? You can probably have a group of numbers which is called as an array. We'll learn about it later. Okay, it can be a group of anything. By the way, let me not get deep into it right now. You just, for the sake of example, understand that you can have a bunch of numbers together, or probably you can have your name written over here, right? Or you can have something like true or false. Okay, so there can be many decisions that need to be made based on different kinds of values in your application. Okay, so where do you actually store these values and how are they stored in your application? Now, to be able to imagine this, I need you to understand the concept of memory. So what is memory? A memory is a storage that is in your computer that helps run the application. Understand it like, to eat, you need a plate, right? So you need to put the food somewhere. So that's a plate that you need. So without the plate, can you just take some rice and start eating it? No, right? It would be all over the place. It would be on the table. It would be on the floor. It would be on your chair where you're sitting, right? So you have a plate, and on that plate, you put some food, and then you start consuming it. Either you eat it with the, you make a sambar or something, or you make some dal or something. It can be anything, correct? So that is what a storage or a container is, right? So this variable is like this small container that will have those values put into it. Until now we understood what values are. Now we are trying to understand where these values will be actually put, so that you would be able to use it later on. Now, is it just this one bucket that you have in your application? No. So to help you imagine this, let me give you an example. All of you probably have been to a marriage of someone, right? And it usually happens in this hall or an auditorium. Agree? So there could be other scenarios, but imagine there is a huge auditorium that can hold, say, 2,000 people. Okay, a huge auditorium which can hold 2,000 or 3,000 people. Now there you get small buckets, small paper cups, okay, which can only hold one rupee coin or one 5 rupee coin. Okay, it's a small cup this big, and you can put 1 rupee coin in it. That's it. There's not much space left over there. Just it's this big, a bucket or a small paper cup. Now, in this paper cup, imagine you get thousands or lakhs of these small paper cups, and you keep it in the floor of this auditorium. Can you imagine that? Small, small cups that can hold 1 rupee coins kept into a complete auditorium. Anywhere you step, there is only these paper cups kept next to each other, like small square boxes. They're kept next to each other. There is no space between these boxes. It is completely covering the auditorium. Now I can, if I get any number of 1 rupee coins, I can put it in any of these cups inside this auditorium. Imagine memory to be like this. So when you say what is a memory, memory is nothing but this 16 GB of RAM, 20 GB of RAM, or 24 GB RAM, or 12 GB RAM. You keep hearing these things, right? So similarly, you might have heard 500 GB SSD, 1 TB SSD, right? 512, 1 TB SSD, and things like this. So what are these? This is nothing but the amount of RAM, or this is the amount of memory that is present, that can be utilized for a program or to store something in your computer. Is that clear? Cool. So now what do I mean, and what is the context of this with respect to the memory? We are getting to it. Hold on. So when you get a computer, you say that I have 16 GB of RAM. Now, what is a bit and a byte is something I want you to go and understand from the internet. What is a bit and a byte? You will understand how memory is uh, uh, you'll understand how memory is put together, or how memory is understood in terms of bits, bytes, kilobytes, and so on. I'm making a lecture on this separately in the fundamentals of computer science playlist in this channel itself. So if you're interested to learn about it, please go learn about it in that section. So I'll be explaining this in depth in that section. But for now, let's not worry about it. Okay. So now let's think, if you have 16 GB of RAM, so that RAM is used to store these values or to run the application. When you run an application, you need space. So if you have even practiced a bit of DSA, you know there is something called a space and time complexity, right? Space is nothing but how much space does a certain task need. Is that is what is space, right? So this 16 GB of available space is there. That's not just for your application. Now, this space will be utilized for any application in that computer, or any application that is running in the browser, because browser will consume this memory as well. Everything is tapping into this memory. Getting it? Cool. So now this memory is what I mentioned, like this small cups kept in the complete auditorium. Now imagine this to be a complete auditorium over here. This complete thing is a big auditorium, and these are small, 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 small boxes kept over there, which will contain the small placeholders that can keep one value. Now imagine that this is stored like, this is the zeroth row, So in programming, we always start with 0th. So I'm just taking that as an example. So say this is the 0th row, and this is the first row, this is the second row, third row, and so on. Okay. So now I'm going to represent this memory like this. 0 into 0001 is this guy. 0 into 0002, that is this guy. 0 into 0003, that is this guy, right? 0th row, third one, 1, 2, 3. Agreed? So similarly, I'm going to say 01 into 0001 and so on. This is my memory location. Now, what happens when you actually create a variable? Let's try to understand that right now. Okay. So when you try to create a variable, say var, or maybe we'll just practice with let only. Let name is equal to, or let me take a simple one. Let age is equal to 29, something like this. Okay. Now, when I say let age is equal to 29, what's going to happen is it needs memory, right? It needs memory. So it's going to say, I need one memory to store this value. So what is this? This is called as a value, and this is called as a variable. Okay. This is a value and this is the variable. Value is stored inside of a variable. Now, this creates something called as a binding. So it goes to this rack, and there are many values stored at many places. Say here there is 28, here there is 21 stored, here 24 is stored, here 27 is stored. It tries to check what is available based on certain decisions that the computer does. We don't need to go that much in depth into the lower levels of memory, but you can imagine that it will identify an empty space for itself. Imagine it like when you go to the auditorium, you're trying to find an empty chair. Okay. So every chair is like that one small box. I'm just giving you with another example over here. If there is 3000 chairs in that auditorium, every chair is like one small memory. Or if it's not just a chair, because that is chair is pretty big. That's why I told a small 1 rupee coin. That is how much small it is cut into. That's when you will be actually able to visualize how your 16 GB is cut into very small pieces. Now, when I say I need to store this value of 29, what can it will go say, hey, age. So say this x 0 into 0001 is free right now. It's going to say bind, bind this age to this memory location, which is 0001. And then it's going to say, hey, I have this 0001 available over here right now, and I need to now store this value in this memory location. It's going to say store this 29 in this small box. Got it? So it's going to say, hey, store this into this small box over here. Now that is going to be where your value is stored. But when I call this age from now on, it's automatically going to know that it is stored in this particular address. You can imagine it like a small address inside of the memory, and it's going to get that for you. Got it? That's how your variables will be retrieved. Now, when you call, so we saw this console.log, right? So in that previous lecture, I showed you there is console.log, something like this, right? So number is equal to 10 or something. Now, what is going to happen over here? Or when you say something like let age is equal to 29. Now that the binding is created, let's print it, right? So I say console.log age is something, right? So now if I just run this program over here, um, so all you need to do, if you remember, is node, and then you can just run hello.js, and you should be able to get the value of 29. Correct? So now how did it get this age? Why didn't it print age itself as a character? So as a string, why didn't it print age itself as a name over there? Right? So it didn't print the age. It didn't print your age is age or something. It printed your age is 29. Now it knows this binding. It's going to go to this value. It's going to grab this value, get it back to your console log, right? And it's going to say, hey, put this 29 over here. Console.log is going to say, hey, okay, I need to print 29, because console log, what console log does is nothing but print something on the screen, like we saw in one of the previous lectures, because it is given by the browser. It's a capacity given by the browser to JavaScript to print something. It's available there to the JavaScript engine. I think I mentioned it in one of the previous lecture briefly. Okay. Now it's gonna say, okay, I will print 29 on the screen. Got it? This is what happens when you store a memory. Now, in the memory, so right now here a simple value is stored like this. There are concepts of objects also. Object is nothing but, you can imagine you are storing a complete person's details in one box. Okay, it's like a bigger box that has one particular set of details. For example, this can have name, age, and address. Got it? So there are three things stored at one place. Now what happens? Now I was telling you that there are different kinds of memory, right? The one kind of memory is called as stat, and another memory is called as heap. Okay. So I will get into what is stack and what is heap in detail in one of the future lectures. Especially we'll talk about it in the under the hood how JavaScript runs video, and I'll also make a brief video about this in your fundamentals of computer science engineer playlist. Okay, so you can keep a track of that, and you depending on when you're watching this video, you might already have it over there, or if you're watching it immediately, this will be present in the next couple of days. Okay, so a stat memory, you can imagine, is like a fast memory. For now, you can imagine it like it's quick. Heap is something that stores these objects kinds of things because it's heavy. Okay, so you can imagine it like a sofa versus a normal chair. A chair you can move around quickly, you can move around, but a sofa you cannot just move around, right? So I'm just trying to help you create a mental model over here. So now when this is stored somewhere else in the memory, what will happen where you store that variable for that object? For example, you say let person is equal to, this is how you declare objects in JavaScript, and this has this name, value, and age over here. Okay, now it's going to store this person somewhere, but it's going to say I got this address of this person from this another heap memory location, say something like 0f/0001, but I'm gonna put this address to this memory location over here, 0f/0001. Okay, it will store the address to that in that variable. So that variable, particular variable of object, will hold the address to the actual one. So you can imagine it like holding a phone book which has another number, right? So you have the phone book. In the phone book, you will know which page has this number. You can go to that page and then get the actual person's number. For example, in your phone directory, page number 10 has your friend Shravan's number. Now, Shravan's number, you will just go, remember that, hey, page number 10. You go to page number 10. So this is like this page number 10 that I was telling you about. Page number 10 knows what the actual number is, which is in your heap memory, which you can go later or whenever you need to, you can go there and ask, hey, so this is your number? Yeah, this is my number. This is the data I need. I'll give you back the data. Same thing happens after that. It just gets the actual value and starts printing it on the screen. Got it? So that's about how actually a variable is stored under the hood, and then how you actually retrieve that variable and then use it in the course of your program as your program runs. We learned about values, we learned about variables, and we also learned about how they are stored in depth. Guys, I made you a promise in the beginning of this series. This is going to be the most in-depth JavaScript course you will ever find. I'm going to cover everything you ever need to know about JavaScript and about programming. You never need to go into any other playlist. I'm going to make sure of that you will never need to go to any other JavaScript playlist ever. You can always come back to this. That is how in-depth I'm going in every single lecture if you observe. Okay? Now, let's get into variable naming conventions. That is how to actually name a variable. Are there certain rules for naming a variable or not? Yes, there are certain rules and there are certain conventions. So what is the difference between a convention and an actual rule for naming a variable? So a convention is nothing but a certain way of doing things that is practiced in the programming language, or even in a normal life. You can imagine it like there is a convention to say either namaskar or shake hand with the person, say hello when you meet someone. Correct? That is a convention. Now if you don't wish them hi, is it, are you going to go to jail? Is it a breaking a rule somehow? No, it's not. If you don't, they will just call you rude, right? But it is not a mandatory rule that you need to do. But on the other hand, If you go and intentionally break a person's windshield of a car, or you throw stone at a person's car, now you might go to jail because that is illegal, right? So there is a difference between what can show you an error versus what is a convention. So let's understand what are the conventions. So when you declare a value in JavaScript, you usually use camel casing. What is camel casing? Camel casing is nothing but like this. Okay, let number, for example, let I'll say age is equal to 25, something like that. Okay, now you see all the characters of this word, this variable over here. This is the value and this is the variable, remember? So all these characters are small letters right now. But what if I want to say something like my age, right? Then my, the first word, the first character of the first word M is small letter, but then the second, the first character of the second word, and so on, third, fourth, fifth word, whatever it might be, is going to be capitalized. So it's going to be like this. I'll give you one more example to help you understand. Let number of days in a month. Okay, number of days in a month. You saw how this is. I hope this is now clear to you. Number of days in month. Okay, now, one other thing I want to mention is you should always end with semicolon. Again, it is not a mandatory rule in JavaScript, but certain conditions it's mandatory. It's like certain places it can throw you an error because of certain other issues that can go. I don't want to get into that in depth right now. Just understand that end your statements with a semicolon. What is a statement? This one set of line that you wrote that can be executed as one whole thing, right? So I cannot write this, right? So this is not going to be a single statement, and you cannot say let 30. This is wrong, right? So this whole thing is called as a statement. Now, you can automatically ensure that this works fine by installing two extensions. I think I mentioned it in one of the previous lectures as well. Install ESLint, okay, from Microsoft. You can go to this extensions tab and search for it. Okay, search ESLint and you should be able to find it. And another one you need to install is Prettier ESLint or Prettier Code Formatter. You can install this Prettier Code Formatter. Okay, and if you do this, automatically it will do the spacing, adding the semicolons, and all those things will be done for you. So this is something that is good to have. So I would highly suggest you to use that. Now getting back, so we now learned how to actually declare a variable, right? Now let's understand how we can declare constants. What are constants? For example, pi, the value of pi is 3.1428, right? So that is a constant. You start those keywords with cons, and then if I declare this capital letters, you see the color of this number of days in a month versus this pi, right? It is actually different, right? So you can imagine it like this automatically, that VS Code automatically knows that, hey, this is the uh, color that I need to give because it is a constant. Now that I'm gonna switch off GitHub Copilot quickly over here, because I want to actually show you how to write code, not let GitHub Copilot write the code for you. So I'm going to disable this. Okay, there you go. Now, if I say 3.1428 and so on, okay, now that is done. For example, when do you use constants? For something that is fixed. For example, I want to use the color black. So if you come from CSS, if you know CSS, you know that the color code for this is 000000. Okay, so this means that is a color black. Okay, so now if I want to use color black anywhere, for example, I'm printing the color is, okay, the color is, and then I can say plus, and then I'm gonna print black over here, right? So now see the semicolon is not auto added for me, so you have to add the semicolon manually. So now you see the color is 000, which is the value of black. It doesn't print black, it prints the value of black over here. That is what I mentioned you in the iPad moments ago, right? So now we know how to declare constants, and we know how to declare the what is the convention to declare variable names in JavaScript. Okay, so can I declare variable names like let new is equal to new? No, because new is something of a reserved keyword. So when you create something of a new entity in JavaScript, we'll learn about this in the future, but this is a reserved keyword. You cannot use this directly. So you have to use the correct words. For example, function. you cannot use a function as a keyword as well, because a function is nothing but, if you come from another programming language, you know what a function is. A function, if you don't worry about it. It's also a reserved keyword. It is something when you write, for example, I created this let, const and all these things, right? So these are nothing but reserved keywords. Okay, because when you say that, it knows, okay, when a person starts a statement with const, I need to declare it as a constant. Okay, JavaScript's inner language, it is like that. Okay, now can I not declare variable names like this? Let father's name is equal to something. Okay, can I not do this? This again is a convention. This is not a rule. That declaring that new and number, like I told you, is a rule. It's like throwing stones on the car. But when you declare the variable name with the first character as capital over here, that is a convention. So can I just break conventions? No, you shouldn't break conventions. In certain programming languages like C sharp, it is a convention to use Pascal casing. So this is called as Pascal casing. Pascal casing is nothing but the first character of every word is capitalized. Camel casing is nothing but from the second word, the first character of every word is capitalized, but the first word itself is small. Okay. So in JavaScript, we don't go with Pascal casing. We usually go with camel casing. Okay. That is a convention. Whenever you work in a project, whenever you work in a company, if you don't follow this, your senior is going to come and tell you, hey, this is not how we declare variables. And you don't want to be getting such small and basic advice from anybody. Correct. Now, let's understand what can be the name of variables. So you can just use underscore as a variable name. Okay, so you can use underscore as a variable name. For example, Shri, I'm saving my name there. Okay, so I can say dollar as a variable name. I can say dollars. I'm just writing some random value for it. Okay, but can I just say let 1 year is equal to 1 year? No, you can't do that, because a variable name should not start with the number. That is a rule again. It's like throwing stones on the car. It's not a convention. Okay, so you cannot do this. You have to say something like 1 year. But can I change it to something like year one? Yes, you can. A number can come as the second character or after that. So that means you can just say um, yes, one. That is a valid variable name, because the first character is not a number. Similarly, you cannot use ampersand as a variable name, or ampersand something as a variable name. That is also not allowed. So there are certain rules like this for creating variables and the right way to write variables. There are many rules here. So I can't explain all of that to you. So please go to W3 schools. Okay, and learn about variables over here, and learn about this variable naming conventions. Read through all those variable naming conventions, but for the most part you should be good with understanding all these things. One other thing I want to mention when creating variable names: if you're say creating a number, now don't say num1 num2. Okay, don't just say n1 is equal to 5 and let n2 is equal to something like that. Okay, don't do this. Okay. Reason being, when you come back after a few months or even weeks, you'll not understand what N1 and N2 stand for. Variable names should be readable. Even if it's a bit longer, that is fine. But variable names should be readable. When I read it, I should be able to understand what it holds. Let number one, or when I'm adding two numbers, you can say let number 1 is equal to 10, right? Let number 2 is equal to 20. Okay, or say if I'm adding something of two banks statements, let HDFC account balance is equal to 100, and let for example SBI account balance is equal to 200. Right? Now I know that what I'm adding the balance of both of my banks, right? 100 and 200 rupees together, which is 300. Now, the moment I see this, let total balance, right? Let total balance is equal to HDFC account balance plus SBI account balance. Now, I know that total balance holds the total balance of the user. right? So, but if you just say let num3 is equal to num1 plus num2, or let n3 is equal to n1 plus n2, it is, people cannot understand what it means. In that application, it is important to make it readable. Now, I told you about going to W3 schools and reading. So I'm also going to drop, also going to publish completefrontend.com. So we will be launching it within a month. Okay. And I will start writing blogs for you and notes for you and useful content for you, things like interview experiences as well. So you can start visiting this is launching soon still. So I will be launching this completefrontend.com in about a month, so you can visit back to this in a month, but it will not have a lot of content initially. You will have to wait depending on when you're watching this. If you're watching it now, uh, that is in August of 2025, there might not be much content, but if you're watching this in the future, probably that website has a lot of content already. Okay, so that is what we learned about variables, variable naming conventions, and how to name variables right, how to actually go about declaring variables in a program is something that we learned in detail. I hope you're enjoying this lecture. I'm going in depth as much as possible for you to try to simplify that for you so that you understand these complicated concepts very easily. If you're enjoying this lecture, please like and subscribe, and please comment your opinion in the comments below. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching Complete Frontend. This is Srikanth signing off.